Hey, welcome to Gaming Fashion Weekly. The outfit of the day is this piece of paper that says pre-recorded presentations, and the question is, who wore it better? Was it Sony? Was it Nintendo? Yippee! Or was it Square Enix?
I'm blonde, my hair is messy, so imagine just I'm Cloud, okay?
Find out after the break. Hey guys, quickly before I begin, I would just like to remind you guys that I am a beginner in this YouTube stuff, so I really appreciate every like and every subscription you guys give me. I do these videos once a week where I talk about the games industry and other things I find interesting about games. And what I really want to create with these videos is to start a discussion. So I really appreciate if you guys put your comments down below on what you think about this video. If I am wrong about something, please let me also know. I am open to feedback, and I think if I'm wrong about something, it's always a chance to learn more. And just interacting with my videos helps really with the algorithm. So that's all I have to say. Now let's get back to the weird shit I'm talking about this week. Okay, bye. Okay, hey guys, now to the actual topic. So we are going to look at the three companies that I mentioned before and their live pre-recorded presentation shows, like Nintendo Direct, the State of Play from Sony PlayStation, and the Square Enix Presents. So I'm going to compare them and rate them on the announcements, the entertainment value or flow of the whole presentation, and then the audience reaction. And also I'm going to give a few bonus points if they do something really cool with their presentations that does not fit into the three categories that I already mentioned. Oh, I am ranking these from 1 to 5 in these categories and then giving the bonus points later, yeah. But yeah, I will be starting with the Nintendo Direct day here. I don't remember it by heart. I did not bother remembering the dates, and I do not have a script for these videos. But yeah, I think all in all, it was a solid direct. It had been quite a while since we had our last proper Nintendo Direct, so a lot of people were excited for this one, and I am just really glad we have Nintendo Directs back. But when I watched the show, it was 50 minutes long, so it was quite long. I was feeling kinda okay about it. They had some really good announcements. I loved Pyra and Mithra in Smash Brothers, just like I mentioned in my Xenoblade video. And then Splatoon 3 was awesome. It's good to see Miitopia back. I want more for the Me/Wii franchise for Nintendo anyways. Then Skyward Sword HD, which I have played, I'm not gonna get again, but a solid announcement as well. They had a lot of good announcements there, but they also had a few weird spots in there, like the moments where they talked about Mario 3D World, which they just re-released on the Switch. They just mentioned it and did not go any further into it. Like, hey, we're going to do new updates, or there's gonna be some DLC, we're gonna add new characters. No, they just said like, hey, we released Mario 3D World. They said that out of nowhere, and they just did not add anything into it. I felt kind of similar with the Hyrule Warriors DLC announcement, where they just announced that they will be having DLC, but did not show like any footage or reveal anything like, hey, we're going to have 8 new characters or anything cool about the DLC that would actually make people want to buy it. So those were a bit weird. Then they also had a few games that I do not understand why they were even there. For example, like DC Superhero Girls, which was, I don't know who that game is for, and I'm not sure if the game will even be quality. It doesn't look like a quality game. So I'm a little weirded out by Nintendo including DC superhero girls in their Nintendo Direct, and those games usually drag the Direct down because people just don't care. People will go like, ah, okay, cool, but it's not something people really care about. But that said, for the announcements, they had a lot of variety, which was really good. They had fighting games, they had shooters, they had RPGs, they even had like visual novels, they had indie games, they had completely new announcements, ports, uh, all kinds of stuff. So it was very varied in announcements, which was really great to see and something I can always appreciate. So for announcements, I will give the Nintendo Direct 4. They had really good announcements, but there were a couple of weird spots, so that's why I'm not giving them a 5. The flow or the entertainment value of the Nintendo Direct was a bit meh. It was okay, it was nice to see Nintendo Directs back, as I said previously, but this was 50 minutes long, and I do not feel like it should have been that long. They could have made a much more solid Direct out of this if they had cut like 10 minutes or 15 minutes out of it, and that would have made it much more enjoyable to watch. And it dragged a bit in the middle for me. There wasn't really much games that I was interested in. Metopia was great to see, but I had already played it. And the other interesting titles in the middle were all ports and nothing new, and then just a few games that did not seem like very good in quality. I bet they're fine games, but nothing like, oh, that's really exciting. You know, it had a good beginning, starting with a Xenoblade rep in Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers announcements are always really exciting, and then ending it with both Zelda and Splatoon. And maybe they could have done it in a way where they revealed Zelda in the beginning. Like the first announcement would be Skyward Sword HD, and then reveal the Smash Brothers fighter in the middle of the presentation, because I saw a lot of reactions for the Direct and they were just screaming Smash Brothers, and that's kind of lessened the impact of, yeah, it was a Smash Brothers trailer, well done, but if they would have started with Skyward Sword, people would have kind of forgotten that they are expecting Smash Brothers, and then just suddenly play a Xenoblade trailer, and then boom, it was actually Smash Brothers. That could have been more impactful for the audience and made it much more interesting. Like, oh, I did not see that coming right now. So that would have been interesting, and then leaving Splatoon 3 for the end like it was. And then also for the flow, I would have just cut a few games out of there. I don't care about, I don't think a lot of people care about like DC Superhero Girls or the weird zombie game they had. So yeah, 3 for flow. And now for the audience reaction. It was an okay direct. People think it was an okay direct. A lot of people think it was worse than it actually was, but that was because they had really high expectations and were expecting like really big games to be announced for some reason. But I'm not, I didn't think realistically we would get anything really big looking at the time that they released this direct. They have a lot of stuff already coming in the spring, and I think the big announcements will be saved for the summertime. So audience reaction 3. And for bonus points, I'm going to give 1 bonus point for AG Aonuma. And I really like that he was honest, because when we saw him on screen, everyone thought about Breath of the Wild 2. Now we're gonna get news, because that is the biggest Nintendo game that is coming up, and people just want to know more about that game. People are very excited for that game, but unfortunately, we did not get any new information. But at least he was honest about it, and that's something I really want to see more developers and publishers do about their games if they are years or months away, but they have revealed it like a long, long, long time ago without any news. Just give us like regular updates like, hey, I know we have not been talking about it much, but please understand the development is going well, blah de blah. For games like Elder Scrolls 6 or Bayonetta 3, it would be really good to see like actually people on camera talking about like, hey, it's going fine, but we're not ready to show it yet, please understand. Because when you go in front of a camera, you get that more of a human connection, and it's easy to understand than if a company just tweets out like, yeah, sorry, lol, next year maybe. So all in all, Nintendo got 11 points. Okay, and next up is the PlayStation State of Play. And the first thing I have to say about this, that I don't like the name. I don't like the name at all. State of Play. It's not as catchy as a direct or presents. So I don't like the name. And otherwise, the announcements that we had in the latest State of Play were a bit underwhelming for me, at least in my opinion. They opened up with Crash Bandicoot 4, which Crash Bandicoot is a big popular IP, but all they had to announce for that game is that, hey, it's getting a PS5 re-release. The same game, and it works a bit better, I guess. Which wasn't that exciting, at least for me, because the game already exists on other hardware that they have, so it wasn't really shocking or anything like mind-blowing. They did not add anything really that cool to it, so it was a bit meh start to it. Otherwise, they did a few cool games there, and I like how they went in depth with most of the games that they showed, so that was really cool to see. They did not show many new games, and most of them were just updates on games that we already knew, like Deathloop or the Bridge Spirit game that looks really cool, but it didn't feel like there was much new in the Sony State of Play. And the biggest thing was at the end, the Final Fantasy VII Remake PlayStation 5 version. I do not remember the whole title. At least they are adding some new stuff to it, like photo mode and the Yuffie DLC chapter, which is cool. If you're going to get it on PlayStation 5, you're going to get some new content. Nice. Even then, they ended the actual presentation by just showing the difference between the PS4 and PS5 versions of the game. And I might be alone on this, but I saw like no difference at it. Like at some points the lighting was a bit different, but that's all. So it didn't look impressive at all, especially when you are streaming it on YouTube and the quality is just like 1080p. So it can't look much better. If it's in 4K, sure, but I can't see it on my screen, so it just looks the same. It was very silly and very dumb of them to add it that way. So I'm just gonna give, like, for the announcements, I'm gonna give it a 2, only a 2. It does get 2 because they went in depth with the games, but otherwise the announcements were a bit lackluster, and they only had like altogether one completely new game announcement in the whole State of Play, so it was kind of boring to watch. Talking about boring to watch, the flow. Yeah, when you have nothing but updates, it's not very interesting to watch, and they showed like no human faces. You don't get that human connection, and all of the voices that you heard on screen sounded like very unenthusiastic. They were just speaking from a script, and you could easily hear that. Meanwhile, in like the Square Enix presentation, which I will talk about later, the Life of Strange part had the YouTuber or media influencer girl in the beginning, and you could tell that she was enthusiastic, and I did not know her, and I was still hooked because she was clearly interested in the game. But in the Sony case, they all sounded very stale and boring, so it was not interesting to watch. For the flow, I will also have to give 2. It gets a few points because, again, it told more about those games, which is interesting to see, entertaining if you care about those games, but if you do not, it kinda drags and it's not just fun. And audience reaction for Sony State of Play, I have never seen many people saying like, oh boy, this State of Play was really awesome. And people usually are not that generally excited for a State of Play. Could just be my weird corner of the internet that is doing these reactions, but I do not see many people usually very hyped before and after a State of Play, so I will actually have to give it a 1. And also, yeah, I'm gonna give bonus points for just talking more about the games, so it does get some bonus points too. So altogether, what was that? 7 points for State of Play, yeah. 7 points, I think, like, no, 6 points. So altogether, that was 6 points for Sony's State of Play. I wasn't a big fan, but maybe you were. Okay, and last but definitely not least was the Square Enix Presents. This was a very interesting one because Square Enix is not a console manufacturer and they are just a single company, but I think they did pretty well in their presents presentation, and it opened up with Outriders, which is it a big game? I'm not sure, but they spent 10 minutes on it, so I was not really feeling it at the beginning, and was kind of bored when they went in depth with like what different character classes do. Please don't do that. Say that for like an E3 presentation trailer, but do not have it in this kind of trailer. I don't really care about that, especially if you're not interested in that game, and if it's not like a new character they are adding, it doesn't make sense to go that much in depth. Then they talked about Lara Croft Anniversary and all these cool collaborations that are not Smash Brothers that she's in now, and it was cool. And before the presentation, they also announced that they will be giving free copies of the 2 Lara Croft games, which is really fun to see and gets people very excited for it. So that's good marketing. I will have to give bonus points for that. But yeah, they had good variety in what they announced, ending it with another big one that took a bit too much time, in my opinion, with the Life is Strange stuff. And then they announced like the new IP, which had a cool trailer, but then they told nothing about it and just had a random actor tell about her role in it. And I'm not sure if people have seen this game before, and basically what they announced was just the title, and thankfully it's not as awful like Project Triangle Strategy or Octopath Traveler or any other horrible names that Square Enix sometimes does, but still, just a title drop, that's not a very good big announcement to end your presentation on, and I would have just left it at Life is Strange and had that title drop announcement earlier in the presentation. So I will have to give them 3 also for the announcements. Very solid, very varied. I like that they also had like arcadey stuff in there, but the beginning and end were not the best, so that's why a 3. Okay, yeah, next is the entertainment value or the flow of the whole presentation. And like I said, it was not very interesting to me in the beginning when they talked about Outriders for 10 minutes, but after that, it got really good in my opinion. So for the flow, I will have to give Square Enix Presents a 4. Okay, so yeah, finally the audience reaction for Square Enix Presents. I think it went relatively well. They got a lot of buzz for this because they also did the free game thing, which is really cool to see and really got people talking. So again, good for that. Good for that. But people were kind of like, yeah, it was good, it was solid. And part of that was because they revealed most of what they were going to talk about before the presentation. They had like, we're going to talk about the new Life is Strange, and we're going to talk about this thing, we're going to talk about that thing, and people were like, yeah, okay. And then they mostly talked about those things. So yeah, it was not like they didn't leave much room for new mind blowing stuff. So it was just like, yeah, you said what you were going to say. So yeah, okay, sure. I will have to give it 3. And this strategy of, talking exactly everything like what you're going to say, it's a very interesting strategy, and I can see it bringing some more people to watch the presentation. Like if you are a Life is Strange fan, you will have to tune in to watch this reveal. But at the same time, if you do not see your Square franchise represented before the presentations, you might skip out on it because they're not gonna have Final Fantasy news, so I'm not gonna tune in. I don't care. So it can be a bit of a double-edged sword for them. Again, as I said, bonus points for giving us 2 free games. So they also get 11 points. Okay, so all in all, Sony State of Play is last by 6 points, and Nintendo Directs and the Square Enix Presents both have 11. And I think this was really solid for both Square and Nintendo. They both obviously had flaws, but I think they're both doing pretty good. And for Nintendo Directs, this was about average of a Nintendo Direct. It wasn't awful. It was not awful. If you want to see an awful Nintendo Direct, please go back to like 2012 where they had nothing to talk about. So they have definitely improved over time. This was not their best showcase, but still it was pretty solid. And Square Enix, I have not watched Square Enix presentations before, maybe a few on E3, and they were kind of meh. But this one was really good in my opinion, and I'm definitely gonna tune in for more Square Enix presentations in the future, and they're gonna have one this summer, I guess, probably E3 time. But yeah, that is what I think about these presentations. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below, and I will see you guys next time.